All right, we are back. We are back. Delayed by a couple days, but you know how it goes. Happy to be back. So this was pretty interesting, and albeit not terribly surprising. These lawsuits against social media companies. Wow, who could have seen this coming? You mean to tell me that these platforms are addictive and they didn't even let us know? Jeez. I wonder how many people have been affected by this. No, so this was like the first civil trial that actually went to court. We've seen like Snap and Facebook, I think, settled out of court previously on similar cases, but we saw somebody actually go the distance, and this lady got like $3 million in her settlement, which is pretty wild. And there's a lot of people online and in this sort of space, the news commentary space, that are making a lot of predictions about what this means for the future of independent media and news media. And, I just thought it'd be interesting because I think, like most of these instances, the predictions are a little overblown, and we actually already have seen this happen in the world before. So I think it's a good time that we all take a quick reality check and look at what this ultimately has meant in other places where this has literally already happened. So you don't need to like make some crazy prediction about what you think might happen. We've literally seen how this plays out in other Western-oriented nations in terms of their legal system. But just a quick rundown for those of you who are not terminally online on these very addictive platforms. So the jury reached a verdict today where platforms like Instagram or YouTube designed to be addictive, which we already knew that much is true in the early days of these platforms. You just had the chronological feed. If you're old enough that you were on MySpace, or maybe you were part of that first wave of Facebook right after you could get on without a .edu email address, then you remember back in the day when your feed was strictly people that you followed, and there was no like suggested content based off of the number of likes. It was just fed to you in reverse order of when it was posted. You saw the most recent, you could scroll down, and you could actually reasonably get to the end of that list. Hey, you saw everything that your friends have posted since the last time you were here. Those were the good old days. Honestly, I really loved that, back then, like only your friends saw your pictures and there wasn't a lot of people that were just clout chasing on social media. Like you didn't have people going to the pumpkin patch just so they could take pictures with the pumpkin spice latte and their boyfriend. And, it was kind of more fun back then. But obviously that didn't last long. They started with these algorithms several times. Guys like Mark Zuckerberg or Jack Dorsey, who previously from Twitter, they said that, they didn't fully understand how the algorithm works. Like, they kind of created this math problem that just started thinking and then just started showing you stuff, and they didn't fully understand how it worked. And before we dive into all the conspiracy on that, we'll just fast forward to this case today. This woman, who's identified as KGM, a 20-year-old woman from Chico, California, that she began using Instagram at age 9. I mean, listen, I don't want to pass judgments on this lady. She might need to sue her parents. 9 years old is nuts. Though, I mean, how much older was I when I was on MySpace? Let's be honest. Like, thank God they got rid of that platform, and hopefully nobody can find my old profile. But anyway, so yeah, YouTube at age 6, well, that's actually pretty normal. I think like a lot of people with kids or that know people with kids know that, Coco Melon exists for a reason. And she became addicted to the platforms, body dysmorphia, suicidal thoughts, anxiety, mental health issues. I mean, you know how it goes. These are the warnings that we all know about social media. Everybody knows this about social media, and yet there is no warning on social media. You think about it, if you go and you buy a vape or a pack of cigarettes, it says it right there on the carton. Depending on the state or country you live in, it might be the size of the whole carton. This product is addictive. And then they got a picture of some dude with his teeth all freaking out. And anyway, so She sues the company, goes the distance, doesn't settle out of court, and it was a jury trial, and they ruled in favor of her, and she's probably going to look forward to being the new Stella. She'll get slimed in the media as some woman who went after this poor $1 billion company. How dare she put this $1 billion company to the test? Am I right? No, I mean, because that's what they do every time somebody sues a $1 billion company. There's like a media blitz over a decade to just slime that person forever, which thankfully she's only identified by KGM. So hopefully that doesn't happen to Miss Kaylee here. Fingers crossed. I'm actually happy to see this. I'm not a particularly litigious person. I don't like that this is unfortunately how a lot of these things need to be resolved. But in this instance, I would agree this definitely needs to be resolved in this way. $3 million in compensatory damages, $2.1 million from Meta, and YouTube $900,000. So that's a shot across the bow, right? That is a massive shot across the bow to these companies to let them know that they're not just going to be able to operate with impunity. They cannot make the algorithm more and more addictive just for the sake of it. But what does that mean for people like us? Right. And I don't just mean me sitting here with the mic. I mean, even people like you listening right now. Maybe you only have 1 or 2 posts on your page. Maybe you're the kind of person who just likes to use these platforms to look at things, which is totally fine. I mean, that's what they're for, right? I mean, a lot of people do like to post about their daily life, but the reality is like, there are, I think it's like what, 80%. That was the old triangle, right? That like 80%, 90% of people on platforms are just there to look. They're not there to post. Maybe they do the repost. That was kind of the special thing about TikTok, is that it kind of invited you to be part of the viral trend. You didn't have to just look at the silly video of the people dancing to the song. They made it really easy for you and encouraged you to recreate that video with your own friends. And it kind of made social media fun again. One might even say a little bit addictive. This is coming to every single platform, by the way. Every single platform in every single state is going to get another one of these. And here's the thing. There we go. That's great. Awesome. No. So here's the thing. Every single state is going to see this. We're going to get to see this over and over and over again. And we already have punditry that is saying that, oh, well, this is going to mean this is going to mean that. Independent creators, independent news media, they're not going to allow that. YouTube is going to become like Netflix and yada, yada, yada. And there's some credence to that argument. I mean, Section 230 protections as they exist today mean that basically a platform can't be held liable. If I come on this platform and start spreading lies, you can't sue TikTok because I am on TikTok line, because TikTok's not the one creating the content. I am. Here's the thing. I've gotten paid a grand total of 1 cent from TikTok. And who knows how much money TikTok's made off of this. So there are obviously much bigger creators that get a lot more money and generate a lot more revenue for the platform. So TikTok, sure, they're not creating the content, but they are getting paid for it. And by paying out for it, they kind of incentivize people to do that. We see that with certain viral stories that turn out later to be totally bunk, whether it's Egyptian planes or spies or whatever. It doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, they allow these lies to proliferate, and then they get money for it, and then they pay creators money. And almost every platform operates this way now. X, TikTok, YouTube, I mean, Rumble even, probably the smallest one in the mainstream right now, all operate on the same principle. So I think there would be a case that you could say that the platforms themselves, they cannot be shielded from the actual editorialization, because regardless of whether or not they make and produce it, they do distribute it and get paid for it. But beyond that, there's the prediction now. TikTok, YouTube, all of these things are going to be partner agreements. They'll have stricter content moderation. They will they will not be allowed to pay people for their content, or they'll risk being, liable for defamation, being able to be sued. And, this is going to destroy independent news media spaces, that these companies are just going to become co-opted by Red Seat, which is a subsidiary of Fox News. I think CNN is on the same thing right now. So is MSNBC. They're trying to get these small creators, and now they need to figure out how to box everybody out, right? That's the big prediction. I've heard that in like 5 different like major podcasters making roughly this same prediction. You see, I don't think that that's what's going to happen, and I'll tell you exactly why. We already saw what's happening in Australia over the last couple years, right? So Australia identified very quickly something that is actually happening in the US right now as well, which is that young people, the iPad kids, now that they're reaching voting age, are very, very right-wing, and not right-wing in a conservative way. They are right-wing in a very right-wing kind of way. And this kind of unprecedented, right? It came out of nowhere. And the reality is, I think it might be apocryphal. I can't remember who this quote's attributed to, but I think it was Jack Dorsey, that a sufficiently unmoderated social platform will, in conclusion, necessarily become right-wing. This was his theory. He had a lot of reasoning behind this, but he just said it's going to shift right. If you don't moderate the platform, it has to shift right. And you run into a risk here because you say, well, if you guys are editorializing by allowing some content and not allowing others, then that makes you liable. That removes your Section 230 protections. That's basically what this case is leading up to, right? That's the logical conclusion as I see it. And you can't risk that, obviously. I mean, look at who owns these companies. But at the same time, you can't eliminate the user experience, the ability to upload and share videos and comments. You can't get rid of that either, because that's what the platform's for. I mean, the Ellisons just bought TikTok for billions of dollars. Like, Mark Zuckerberg is a billionaire. Jack Dorsey, even after he sold Twitter, he still operates in the tech space, still is a money magnet. A guy tries to give away his money every couple years, and he just keeps getting more. It's wild. So how do you balance that? Because you have some of the most influential people in national politics, is some of the biggest money, some of the biggest donors in national politics. You'd effectively destroy the platform if you just made every single one of these Netflix, right? So how do you, and moreover, speaking of Netflix, where do you even draw the line? Because I know people that they get off of work and all they do is watch Netflix. So is Netflix addictive now? Like, is Netflix going to be open to the same type of lawsuit as YouTube? Because they get shielded because they have a production studio? And I mean, you and I both know that is actually kind of how it works, right? As long as you change the names and you don't attribute it to real people, then you can make it as obvious as you want. No, here's the thing. You can't do that either. So what Australia did to solve their problem, their right-wing youth problem, is that they just made it the absolute law. Like, I think, like, not just civil, but like you could have your kids taken away from you if they are on social media at 16 or younger. Because your kids need to be in school getting indoctrinated by their teachers and the public education system, not by random dudes with beanies and beards on TikTok. And I say that, a little bit self-deprecating, but that is the reality. That's why Australia pushed for this, because we've known literally for decades that children use the internet in general to access all kinds of materials that you shouldn't be showing to the kids as young as 13, 12, 11 years old. We already know that. There was no national pressure. There was no legal pressure from our legislatures to do anything about that problem for as long as the internet has been around. It was not until the minute that kids on the internet started breaking right that all of a sudden we had to hurry up and solve this problem. So this case, no, I don't think that they're going to destroy independent news media. They might find a way to, demonetize independent news media. They might say that, YouTube really shouldn't be like paying for this kind of content. They shouldn't be selling ads against this kind of content. But a lot of these channels already found alternative revenue streams. A lot of these channels, they're selling t-shirts or coffee or skateboards or whatever the heck. And they have in-person meetups, they have memberships, they have premium content that they keep behind the paywall, Patreon or whatever the one is with blogs. I can't remember. And so they already have these ways that they make money. And then other platforms, you look at one as big as, say, like the Daily Wire, they have their own website where they're offering their own movies. Yeah, sure, that's totally, yeah, they'd be fine if YouTube wouldn't let anybody upload anything because they have their own website. They have their own revenue stream. I imagine what they get from YouTube, I'm sure it makes up a sizable share, probably, I'd say at a minimum, 10-15% of their revenue. But I don't think that that's most of what they are counting on in terms of their month-to-month revenue streams. No, this case is a perfect impetus to say, listen, buyer beware. You guys have to put a little warning at the top, this product is addictive. And, when you download TikTok, it gives you a disclaimer, this, doctors say that it can cause all these different effects, body dysmorphia or whatever, unable to tell fiction from reality. No, it'll do all that. And it will come with strict legal penalties. If you let your kids use these platforms, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to lose your kids. You might be negligent for, you be negligent maybe for some kind of criminal, whatever. They will find a way to turn this into keeping kids off the internet because at the end of the day, that's really all they care about. They don't need total narrative control, right? If tomorrow every single independent YouTube news personality was just ripped off the platform and you yourself couldn't even upload shorts anymore, if they did all that, that would be a shock to the system. People would very much notice, and you'd have people using VPNs and all kinds of things. It'd be the same as when they tried to ban TikTok. What, you were off TikTok for like a day. There was a Chinese app to replace it like within 2 hours. You can't just ban the platform and ban the creators because then everybody's just going to figure out another way to do it. It's like the dark web when you do that. No, what you do, you say, listen, we can't solve this problem overnight. And it would cost way too much money. Our biggest donors will lose their shorts and then turn, they'll turn the knives on us. No, so what they'll do is they're going to do it over a generation. They're going to do it slowly. They're going to say, we're going to get the kids off the platform because then you don't need narrative control. They're not going to go watch Vince on TikTok giving them this weird right-leaning lib crap. They're just going to go to the places we want them to go. And that's the reality. That's what's going to happen. And, maybe that's not the worst thing in the world, getting kids off the internet. You really shouldn't just let your kids run free across the digital landscape because, it's a dangerous place out here. It is. It is. So anyway, that's my prediction. They're going to use this as the impetus. They'll put a warning label and they'll pretend like that's the big victory, but it's a misdirect. The big victory is, 16 and younger, 17 and younger. You can't be on social media. That'll be it. They give them just enough time to network right before they get out of high school. That's what they're going to do. So, I don't know. Tell me what you think. Leave a comment or whatever. This show is also on Rumble. It's Vince versus Everyone. VINCE Everyone. No spaces. We have the backup. That's where it is. Certain topics, they don't really play nice on TikTok. TikTok doesn't like them. Totally understandable. That's their prerogative. I mean, after all, they do have a little bit of editorial control, as it turns out. Another interesting theory floating around, end of days, Easter's coming right up. In 2012, somebody predicted that it would end on Easter in 2026, and the CIA remote viewers confirmed it, yada, yada, yada. It's like it's every year. I think this is a thing like for high school seniors. I think it's literally an online trend for high school seniors, just adding to reasons why maybe these children shouldn't be on the internet. And that, there's going to be some end of the world prediction. And it seems like it's every year. Maybe it's just even number years. I don't know. I don't know what the rule is. I'm sure you could, you probably find a chart that would explain it and like link it to some numerology or something. But here's the thing, right? Eschatology, end of days studies, especially as it relates to Christian revelations and biblical prophecies, or even Talmudic prophecies, even I don't know what the word is if you're Muslim. I'm sure that they have their own kind of word for it. But here's the thing, right? Because like most Americans, I am a Christian. I was born Catholic, raised Catholic, proud to be Catholic. Here's the thing. Just any time you hear one of these prophecies, I won't go into like super deep biblical liturgy or anything. Here's the thing. It does tell you in the Bible, like the Antichrist is going to be this like larger than life figure. This is somebody that is going to be powerless. We will be powerless against them. This is not going to be a person that wins in a 51-49 splits. No, this is going to be a person who has even a demonic sort of ability to attract people, to win hearts and minds. I don't think that this is going to be any political leader that is elected in such a close split, right? Just that, and that is me reading things into it. That's not in there. That's just what I think is probable. But what we do actually know, what is actually in the Bible, is that when that Antichrist figure comes, when the false prophet comes, that the real prophet will come after that the return of the Messiah will happen after that. And it will be like a thief in the night. You will not know. There will not be a prophecy for you to point to, for you to watch, for you to follow. You won't know. And the whole reason for this is that, when David was like kind of the Jewish people, they saw King David. He showed up. He was a shepherd. He came with a sword. He was a king. He triumphed over their enemies. He made Israel a great kingdom. And then before he died, there was the prophecy that when the Messiah comes, that he will also come to save Israel, right? And this is something that, in terms of religious prophecy, if you don't believe that Jesus was the Messiah because he did not come with a sword, you see, Jesus came to fight a war. It just wasn't a war here. It was a war in the afterlife. It was a rescue mission that he went to claim his kingdom in heaven to rule over his people in heaven. But to do that, he had to save these people. He had to descend to hell for 3 days to bring these people up with him. That was the thing, right? And he said, hey, when this happens again, you will not know. So you spend all your time reading into this prophecy about, about red cows and comets or whatever. It doesn't actually matter. It doesn't matter. Because what matters is that you prepare yourself for that to come without you expecting it. You need to live your life in a way that when the end comes, you don't feel that you have all this unfinished business, that you didn't repent, that you didn't live right, that you left all those things unsaid or undone in the wrong way. And, obviously some things are better left unsaid, they do say. But no, if you focus all your time and effort on trying to predict something that we are told is unpredictable, like that's the one thing we know for sure, is that he will come like a thief in the night. That was what he said. So if you spend all your time and effort and focus trying to predict the unpredictable, I believe him when he said that, then that you will lose focus of the actual mission, which is living your life the right way. So, I'm just going to say, 1,000,000 to 1 odds. If it all ends on Easter, I guess hit me up and I'll owe you one. But yeah, just you know, don't buy into that. Don't get sucked into that, because once you get into that cycle, then you get locked in, you know. And don't get me wrong, I love a good conspiracy. I literally, it's my favorite thing. And I love, reading about it, but I don't read about it because I'm trying to predict anything. It's fun. It's supposed to be fun. And I mean, but you run the risk of heresy though. Like if you start really buying into this stuff and thinking about this stuff and allowing it to cloud your mind and cloud your focus, that is a bad thing. That it's not healthy. Like it makes you lose focus of what is actually important, which is, taking care of your family, taking care of your life, like being a dude. I mean, to be honest, to an extent, being a dutiful employee, being a dutiful member of your community, like doing what you are doing right now, focusing on it purposefully to be the best person you can be. Which, I don't know, as far as end of the world conversations go, I feel like that's kind of as high of a note as you're going to leave it on. So, anyway, I guess we'll call it a night. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Yeah. Hit that like, follow, share, I'm always here for you.